Hello, everyone. It's Friday, January 21st. It's hard to believe it's year 2022. I mean, especially if you're someone my age and everything, you know, the years just go, and it seems like they go faster and faster. And but we're thankful to be here and be with you. But again, I thank everyone over and over, and I'll never forget it. All the outreach, you know, from people and their cards, their well wishes, and everything, and most importantly, their prayers. So thank you again. We have lost an additional 33 people since I was here on Wednesday with you, and that brings our total death total in West Virginia to 5,609 folks, and it's a crying shame. But I'd ask you again to join me in prayer for these people and all their loved ones and just friends, everybody. It's just it's tragic beyond belief. But the 5,577th death in West Virginia is a 64-year-old female from Raleigh County. The 5,578th death, a 65-year-old male from Braxton County. The 5,579th death, an 81-year-old male from Mason County. The 5,580th death, a 78-year-old female from Wood County. The 5,581st death, a 78-year-old female from Marshall County. The 5,582nd death, an 82-year-old female from Raleigh County. The 5,583rd death, a 77-year-old female from Marshall County. The 5,584th death, an 86-year-old male from Wood County. The 5,585th death, a 47-year-old male from Raleigh County. The 5,586th death, a 71-year-old male from Grant County. The 5,587th death, an 86-year-old male from Marshall County. The 5,588th death, a 78-year-old male from Mineral County. The 5,589th death, a 73-year-old female from Wood County. The 5,590th death, a 66-year-old male from Putnam County. The 5,591st death, a 77-year-old male from Raleigh County. The 5,592nd death, a 76-year-old female from Raleigh County. The 5,593rd death, a 94-year-old male from Barber County. The 5,594th death, a 76-year-old female from Marion County. The 5,595th death, a 61-year-old female from Kanawha County. The 5,596th death, a 76-year-old female from Preston County. The 5,597th death, an 85-year-old female from The 5,597th death, an 85-year-old female from Kanawha County. The 5,598th death, an 80-year-old female from Calhoun County. The 5,599th death, a 61-year-old female from Berkeley County. The 5,600th death in West Virginia is a 76-year-old male from Kanawha County. The 5,601st death is a 91-year-old female from Monongalia County. The 5,602nd death is a 66-year-old male from Greenbrier County. The 5,603rd death, a 53-year-old female from Barber County. The 5,604th death, an 86-year-old female from Kanawha County. The 5,605th death, a 70-year-old male from Boone County. The 5,606th death is an 87-year-old female from Marion County. The 5,607th death, an 84-year-old female from Berkeley County. The 5,608th death, a 55-year-old female from Berkeley County. The 5,609th death is a 79-year-old male from Hancock County. Today's a little different, if you just think about it. I could be wrong about this, but I believe the youngest person that I read today was a 47-year-old. I think that's right. But today, the list was predominantly folks that are our senior citizens. But we all know that just the other day that I read a 21-year-old or a 30-year-old and whatever, and it's tragic beyond belief for all, for our senior citizens as well as our young people. It's just something that we've got to keep battling to get through it. And I know you're going to do that, but I want to urge you all the time to know that we're going to get through this. This is all there is to it. We're going to get through it. The really super minds of the world are working every day to come up with, just the very thing that can just stop it in its tracks. But at the same time, we've all got to realize these vaccines or whatever are good, and they're going to give us time. They're just bridges that gives us 4 months, 6 months of additional time so that super brains can come up with a real cure for the whole situation. Today in West Virginia, we've got 16,742 active cases. We had 5,335 new positive cases in the last 24 hours. Our daily positivity rate was at 23.78%. Our cumulative percentage rate is at 7.55 now. We've had almost 385,000 people that have been infected with COVID that have recovered. We have right at 1,000 people in the hospital. 980 people are in our hospitals now. We have 228 in the ICU units and 131 patients that are on ventilators. And overwhelmingly, the majority of all those people are unvaccinated. But there are several that are vaccinated. Just because you're vaccinated doesn't give you the immunity to say that you're not going to get this, period. But it stacks the deck in your favor. I'm living proof of that. It stacks the deck to keep you out of the hospital if you get sick, and it stacks the deck to keep you from dying and gives you the best odds that you can possibly have. I still strongly encourage vaccination. Omicron is absolutely now running awfully hard in West Virginia. Our National Guard has stepped up, and they are staffing our hospitals and helping us every day. Right now, as of this morning, we have 121 Guard members that have been authorized to deploy to 16 different facilities in West Virginia, and all the data is up there on our dashboard. I remind you again, gosh, I couldn't be more of a testimony to this now, that if you're 65 and above and you get any symptom whatsoever, you got to get tested. You've got to get tested immediately to where we can at least have the chance to be able to give you these antibodies, because they'll save your life. I encourage you about wearing a face mask if you're in a crowd of people indoors and everything, people you don't know and everything. You're 65 and above, you have any health issues whatsoever, I encourage you about wearing a face mask there. this is what I encourage you on more than anything, and I've said it 1,000 times. If you absolutely got both of your shots, I don't care if you were 18 or you were 86, I don't care. If you absolutely opted out to get both of your shots, Pfizer and Moderna, or one shot of J&J, how in the world can you not get your booster shot? I mean, somebody tell me the logic behind that. If you made the decision to get fully vaccinated, knowing that all the medical teams around you are saying to you, if you're 6 months out from J&J, I'm sorry, from Moderna or Pfizer, you're basically walking around like you're not even vaccinated at all. You know, if you're 2 months, I think it's 2 months out of J&J, same thing. What in the world are we waiting on? I mean, how can it be logical that you made the decision to be vaccinated and now absolutely you're just waiting? You know, and in many cases it's because we're so busy, we're running in so many different directions, and we just think, well, the Omicron virus is not as bad as the Delta thing, and so, you know, I'm really just not going to do that right now and everything. You're making a real mistake, No point in me going back through the numbers are about the same as far as the percentages of people that are vaccinated. You know, I encourage, you know, our parents and grandparents to help me with the kids. I mean, we need to get more and more kids across the finish line. It'll just help us in every way. I just looked, you know, can you maybe pull up our map and everything, you know, Jordan, real quick? Because our map, for all practical purposes, is orange or red, one of the two. I can't recall seeing it worse than that. You know, one yellow county, every other county in the state is either orange or red, or gold or red, rather. You know, I can't recall seeing it that bad. But nevertheless, we try to give you all the facts. You know, I've not hidden a thing from you. I've been as transparent as I can be. We've told you, you know, we've pivoted, we've moved in all kinds of different directions, trying to keep you abreast of everything and keep you as safe as we can possibly keep you. But it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at that map and say, you know, if I'm not boosted, I need to go get my booster shot. Or if I'm not vaccinated, I need to really think about it, because that doesn't look good. Okay, all the information is up on our COVID vaccine info line, and you can go there and get all kinds of information. I encourage you about getting tested. You know, the free testing is still available. I always thank Frith and Walgreens for all that they've done, especially in the beginning. They were real superstars, and I really can never thank them enough. You know, the Biden administration now is offering the in-home testing kits and offering 4 per home. And all you have to do, you know, if you want to get those, is to just go to our, is this the covidtest.gov? Is that where they go to? You know, I think that's where, and you know, so all you got to do is just go into that, and they'll send them to you, and you know, but I do think the more we test, the more we know. You know, the more we know, the better we're going to be prepared. You know, that goes way back. You know, I said over and over a long time ago, the more we test, the more we learn. The more we test, the more knowledge we've got. So all that's going to do is just help you and help all of us. We have 143 outbreaks in our long-term care facilities. I think that's the same as the last time I was here. We have 2 outbreaks in our church community. I think that was the same at Kanawha and Nicholas County as last Wednesday. But this one's really moving. In corrections right now, we've got 519 inmate cases and 179 staff cases. That's jumped way up. And so we're on it. And these people have done a marvelous job, and they're going to stay on it, because these people deserve our attention as well. From the flu vaccine, I encourage you. I encourage you to get that as well. Right this minute, I've got my daughter Jill and her husband have both tested positive for COVID, and Jill also tested positive on, for the flu as well. So I encourage you, get your vaccines. Now, in both their cases, they were fully vaccinated with, from the standpoint of COVID and everything, but you need to get your flu shots, you need to get your vaccines. The rental assistance program is still there and still available. I don't know exactly the dollars that we have left and everything, but they're really substantial. I encourage anyone that's a renter or a landlord to get in touch with us and see if you qualify for those dollars. I encourage you about giving blood. It's really, really important, and so we can all do more there and everything, but if you're if you're a physician or whatever says you're healthy enough to give blood and everything, I think that's what you should be doing. Today's a real, a good day. One of the ladies that signs, interpreter and everything that we have, her name is Julie Turley. And Julie's birthday's today, and we thank Julie and Jennifer so much for the great job that they do, and I'm really proud of them. I always talk to them before they leave, and I call them my allies. A lot of times these two are really just the greatest, and so we thank you so much. We're really proud of you. Thank you so much. Happy birthday. Okay. Now this one, I want you to dial in, really, really pay really close attention, because I love, this is so good it's off the chart. We have a 17-year-old graduate from our second Mountaineer Challenge Academy, now, and just think about this. This is the National Guard, taking kids that are a little bit at risk and everything, or maybe just having a little trouble in a lot of different ways. And they're absolutely taking them through their program, and it is amazing what they do, amazing. But there's a young man, his name is William, and I think this is Farkas. But William is a 17-year-old that is a recent enlistee in the West Virginia National Guard and a Tunnelton, West Virginia native that will embark on a journey that you can't imagine. He has been selected to go to West Point. He is a Mountaineer Challenge Academy graduate, and he has now received an appointment to go to West Point. It is amazing. It is so good. It is unbelievable. So, William, I'm telling you, we are so proud of you, and we are so thankful to our great National Guard. I mean, look at the job these people are doing. It says here that William Farkas was a standout cadet during his time at the Mountaineer Challenge Academy South in Montgomery, West Virginia, the state's second academy for at-risk youth. He earned several awards, including the Robert C. Byrd Distinguished Cadet Award and the Adjutant General's Award for Academic Excellence. So, William, congratulations to you from all West Virginians on this incredible accomplishment. And I again thank the National Guard in every way. I mean, you have absolutely touched lives. You've changed lives. It is amazing what you've done and everything. But absolutely, William, way to go. Way to go, son. That's great, great stuff. You're on your way now. And use this as a launching pad to just go on and do more and more greatness. We're really proud of you, son. Okay, here's a nice announcement, too. We have set another all-time record in the state of West Virginia, and you probably saw this come out yesterday, but December, our unemployment rate, seasonally adjusted unemployment rate in West Virginia dropped to 3.7%. It's the lowest monthly unemployment rate in the state history. And we've done this now, I think, 3 months in a row. There are many, many, many more West Virginians that are going back to work, and that's really great. We just need more people in West Virginia, don't we? I mean, if we're approaching an unemployment rate of zero, we need more people. And that's what we got to work on. And we're absolutely solving that riddle right now for the first time in probably decades. But actually people, over the 10-year period, maybe from 2010 to 2020 and everything, we lost 43,000 people in West Virginia moved out. 43,000. So for the first time, I think in 2021, we had, 2,600 or 2,200 people move into West Virginia. First time in forever. But we're moving, and we're moving the right way, but we just need more and more and more people to come. And this unemployment number is just fantastic. It's just, for the last 10 straight months, West Virginia's unemployment rate has been better than the national average, and I think we've gone down in our unemployment rate now 20 consecutive months. Not only is the unemployment rate better, but we are absolutely generating more and more and more revenues in the state that we can do all kinds of great stuff with. That's our surpluses and everything, but we love it that West Virginians are going back to work. But last thing I'd add is who in the world, I don't care where it may be. I read a card of a nice lady that had moved here from New York the other day and everything, and she was so happy, and she said, the people here are so nice. Well, daggum right they are. They're the greatest people on the planet. Every single one of you are the best of the best. You're faith-based, you're low crime. You know the difference between right and wrong. You're not absolutely running your life this way. A lot of times now what we've gotten to in the United States or maybe in the world is it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, it just matters what you can get by with. Well, that isn't the way West Virginians think. West Virginians are hard workers. West Virginians get their hands dirty. And West Virginians know how to work and know how to appreciate jobs and appreciate one another. So this is all great stuff, and I'm really proud of you, West Virginia. You can see I'm jacked up, but I'm stuck on all the time, and I just love it. I love the fact, that you're doing good, West Virginia, and so many of you have pulled the rope, and we've all jumped in together, and let's just keep at it. Last thing I got here is just the announcement and everything that I'm going to deliver the State of the State address next Thursday, January 27th at 7 p.m. And it'll be a little bit modified because a lot of the stuff, is already out and everything. But I do feel an obligation to come in front of our Senate and our House and deliver that message. And there's several things that are not out quite yet and everything. But it is the first time in history, that we had to submit a letter. That was basically outlining maybe a couple of the things that are in the State of the State and everything. First time in history that a governor has not addressed the Senate and the House, in person and everything. We did it by letter and everything. Surely wasn't by choice. I'll promise you that, because I wanted to be there so bad it was unbelievable. But can you just imagine? I mean, the likelihood of the day before the State of the State just boom out of nowhere and everything, COVID. Well, it's been difficult. It's been difficult on all of us in lots and lots of ways. But we'll handle the State of the State, and we'll take care of the affairs as we already have. But really and truly, when it really boils down to it, whom is this has really been the toughest on? Just like today, we read through, and I think the grand total was 5,609 folks now we've lost in West Virginia. We'll handle the State of the State. The state of West Virginia is cooking. The state of West Virginia is doing great beyond belief. And absolutely, we're so proud of that, and so many people need to be thanked. But along the way, we've lost 5,609 people in West Virginia. And so that's where our prayers need to be. Everything is good within the state of West Virginia, and it can just get better and better and better, and that's what we wanted to do. So we're going to keep it going. And I told you early on, I promised you a rocket ship ride, and the rocket is rolling now, and you're riding on the rocket, and it is really fun, and it's just going to get better and better and better. The only way we're going to screw this up, in my opinion, is getting our own way, and I'm going to try every way in the world to assure that doesn't happen. That's all I got right now. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Governor. Let's now go to Dr. Clay Marsh, our coronavirus czar. Good morning. In reinforcement of a few of the messages the governor has sent, it's important to recognize that our hospital numbers in West Virginia are going up. Across the country, in some of the earliest hit places, more urban, with the Omicron variant, there is a plateauing of some of the hospital numbers in those places, but our number is rising up. We're at 980 people today with COVID-19 in West Virginia hospital beds, and we anticipate seeing that continue to rise. Remember, our all-time high number of hospitalized COVID patients is 1,012, and it's very likely we will exceed that at a time in which we are more challenged with short staffing than we've ever been before. The governor talked about the importance of vaccination, and there's some important research that's come out in the last few days that really very much reinforces the power of vaccination and boosters. New data from the CDC demonstrates that people who are 50 to 65 years old, who are fully vaccinated and boosted, have a 44 times less rate of hospitalization than people that are not vaccinated. People over 65 years old have a 49 times protection against being hospitalized versus people that are unvaccinated. 49 times reduced risk if you're vaccinated and boosted. And if you're over 50 and you're vaccinated, but you're not boosted, you still have a 17-fold increased protection against hospitalization. So the protection with 2 vaccines is about 17 times if you're over 50 years old, but the protection with 2 vaccines and a booster is between 44 and 49 times less likely to be hospitalized. So the clear data is that we need people, particularly people in that most susceptible age group, to get vaccinated if you haven't chosen to be vaccinated yet. And please also choose to be boosted. It really makes a huge difference. Data from Israel also suggests that children who have had 2 vaccines had a 50%, half the rate of infection with COVID-19 than those that did not have a vaccine, have the 2 doses of vaccine. And children that were eligible that had 2 doses of vaccine and a booster had about a 75% reduction in the risk of catching COVID-19. So it's really important as we talk about the impact on our pediatric population that we also try to really help have our children be vaccinated at much higher levels. In West Virginia, when we talk about the 5 to 17-year-old group of folks being vaccinated, I believe we're at about 30% 1 dose and 23% 2 doses, which is way, way too low. The other piece of research that came out that should help people choose vaccination is research in about 2,100 married couples who were having children and looking at fertility rates. And what they found was that not only did vaccines not impact fertility rates, in fact, they helped fertility rates as men who had been previously infected with COVID-19 within 60 days and not vaccinated had an 18% reduction, those couples did, of being able to conceive. So getting COVID looks like it's much more of has much more negative impact on the ability to get pregnant than being vaccinated. And so there was really no negative impact of vaccination. So that, I hope, will help reassure people who are childbearing women and also younger men or men who are looking to conceive with a partner that the vaccines are really very helpful in getting pregnant and don't have any deleterious effects. So I think that the real message today is that we still have not seen the peak of COVID-19, the Omicron variant in West Virginia. Our hospital numbers are rising, and our basic mission is to save lives and to make sure that we protect the capacity of our hospital systems. And emerging data in adults and children suggests that vaccination and boosting, when eligible, are the 2 most important things that we can look to try to see this pandemic become endemic. The last thing I'll say is there's been an interesting paper in the journal Nature, which is one of the most respected journals in the scientific world, looking at folks who have used advanced modeling techniques to look at deaths from this pandemic. And the estimate is that we've underestimated deaths globally in this pandemic by somewhere between 12 and 22 million, using both advanced artificial intelligence approaches and also looking at excess mortality rates in these areas. So it really does underscore the incredible impact that COVID-19 continues to make across our world and in our country. And yesterday we lost about 2,500 people. So we can't forget about that impact. And the way we prevent that is to be vaccinated, boosted, and to be careful out there wearing a good quality mask if you're indoors. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Marsh. Next, we'll go to retired Major General Jim Hoyer, the director of our Joint Interagency Task Force.
Good morning. Just highlight and reinforce the effort going on as Governor and Dr. Marsh pointed out. Hospital numbers continue to rise. As the Governor pointed out, the National Guard has done a terrific job in pivoting, as they always do, and adapting. The 126 that the Governor mentioned there, by the end of this day, we will probably have about 200 guard assignments for individual guardsmen. Additional guardsmen are being trained thanks to the work of the Guard, General Crane, General Holt, Colonel Hatfield, and that team, and the work they're doing with Jim Krantz and Joe Peel to get those folks located and trained appropriately. And again, I think it's important to point out that the men and women of the Guard are more than happy to support those frontline healthcare workers, just like they've supported those frontline public health workers throughout this pandemic. Related to vaccines, as the Governor pointed out, it's somewhat baffling that if you haven't received your booster yet, that you really ought to go out and get it. This week is the first week since we've been tracking vaccine intake that we have seen it less than 0.1% a day increase across our age groups. So while I understand the weather has been a challenge, just heed what Dr. Marsh just explained, what the Governor talks about all along. Getting vaccinated and getting the boosters are the most significant opportunity we have to address that number that the Governor highlighted today, 5,609 great West Virginians that we've lost. And we'll get some more data related to this, but the unfortunate circumstance is, if we stop and think about it, that first week that we were involved in this, the projections were 64 West Virginians. And we were up in arms, and the Governor was talking about how that was 3 times the number of people we lost in some of our more significant mining accidents. We are potentially going to approach 100 times that number before we come out of this. The last thing I want to point out related to COVID response therapeutics, we've heard a lot of chatter about concerns about therapeutics. So I just want to put it in these terms, make sure everybody fully understands. We are not getting the number of therapeutics that we need, but that is based on a national supply chain issue. Out of 66 jurisdictions that receive therapeutics on a regular basis, we rank 26. So concerns that there may be some politics involved or politics involved in distribution within the state. It's my responsibility to the Governor to make sure that those things don't get brought into this. And we are working as hard as we can, and the Governor has given us the authority to use the full power of his office, and we work particularly with our 2 U.S. senators almost every day to attempt to get more therapeutics. So I want to make sure that folks understand that. And the last thing is, Governor, I just want to tell you, Personally, I appreciate the story from Challenge Academy. As you are familiar with, we started the process to get a seat, and at the national level, we're told, hey, this is probably not going to be something you can do, but you pressed that issue and led with legislative leaders, with Senator Capito and with Senator Manchin and Congressman McKinley as co-chairs of the National Challenge Program organization to get that done, and to now have a young man to be appointed to the military academy out of there is truly monumental for the state of West Virginia. So I appreciate that leadership and that effort. Thank you.
All right, thank you, General Hoyer. Secretary Bill Crouch is also joining us today and is available for questions. Dr. Anamjad had a prior engagement and will rejoin us next week. We'll now go to questions from members of the media. The first today from Paul Mullen with WCBC.
Good morning, Governor. Good morning, everyone. Before I get to my question, I want to mention John Hill, a friend of mine who passed, and I'm doing his eulogy tomorrow. John, in his earlier life, was a West Virginia National Guard member, and he was the pilot of the helicopter for Governor Arch Moore in his first term. Now the question, Governor, how's your stamina? Usually during a legislative session, it's pretty tough. You're taking calls at all times of the night during a normal session, but you're recovering from COVID and you're also managing a pandemic. Does Kathy draw the line on you? Does she say nothing after 7 o'clock? How's that working out for you?
Good Lord, Paul. Lots of days, well, every day. I mean, are you kidding me? Stop at 7 o'clock. There's no chance on God's earth. I'm taking calls every night, 7 days a week till probably midnight. But I love it. I've done this all my life, but, and I guess if you get believing that you can only do, so much from 9 to 5, that's all you're going to do. But I work all the time, and I'm up and going about 6 in the morning, and then and really and truly at midnight every night of my life you can get a hold of me. So and I love it, and that's what I've always been. A lot of people think, well, how in the world can he do it, from the standpoint of energy? But I've just been blessed. I've really been blessed to always have that. I've not been sick very often at all, and I've surely not been knocked down like I was, a couple weeks ago, and with this. But no, Paul, I feel great. I'm ready to go, and I just want to keep going.
All right, thank you, Paul. Next, we'll go to Jess Mancini with Ogden Newspapers.
Thank you, everyone, for taking my question. Governor, do you have a reaction or comment to House Bill 4071 that would eliminate any mask or testing requirement in the public schools? And if that bill was to happen to pass the legislature, would you sign it or veto it or let it go into law without your signature? Thank you.
Well, let me comment this way. Our local school boards have done well, have they not? They've made a lot of really good decisions, and along the way, I don't think that. I don't think we had an adverse decision that I can recall that where everybody got up in arms about it and everything. I really do not believe we need to have mask mandates at our schools. I really believe that, and I'm sure a lot of good legislatures believe the same thing. And but we got a lot of really important stuff going on here, and so. So, we're going to watch it. We're going to continue to watch it as it goes through and all that kind of stuff. And and we'll see, you know, what the final outcome comes out to be. I'm not for, you know, mandating masks at schools. I'm not for that at all. But I really believe that you know, we made the decision to have local control, and I think those folks did a heck of a good job, you know, and my only comment would be just simply this: we got a lot to do here, a lot to do, and you know, I go back to, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and you know, really and truly, or don't try to fix it, but you know, our local people did a good job, and you know, that's all I can say. But we'll watch this and we'll make a decision on it when it finally comes out.
All right, thank you, Jess. Next to Kenny Bass with WCHS and Fox 11.
Hi, thanks for taking the question. I have a question for Dr. Marsh, if possible, and the governor may want to weigh in. Once again, we're getting some mixed messaging about the types of masks we need to be wearing. Well, there is some recommendation to wear masks if you're older, if you have symptoms, if you're in an inside or in a crowded room. We've heard from various people over the past several days, including members of the Biden administration, that cloth masks just aren't very effective. So the gaiters or a kerchief or, you know, the mask even that I'm wearing today, a cloth mask, isn't very effective. And we've heard for quite some time that regular paper masks that aren't N95s are not effective. So is this a case where people need to start moving toward N95s or thinking about N95s as a daily piece of equipment they need to be using? And if that's the case, how do they acquire those, and which, you know, aren't as readily available as some of the other masks people are using? Thank you.
Dr. Marsh, please answer.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you, Kenny. Kenny, we know that, as I mentioned in my earlier comments, that probably the most important single factor for us to effectively protect people with the Omicron variant now as our dominant variant is to have people really focus on 2 vaccines and a booster. And the booster for those eligible appears to be really important. And we know that the potency of the immunizations are generally really good in the first 3 to 4 months and then start to reduce in their potency. And people who have been vaccinated and boosted, or people that have chosen not to be, then looking at the transmissibility, the infectiousness of the Omicron variant is very, very much higher than anything we've seen, in the order of 2.5 to 3.5 times as infectious as the Delta variant. And because it's so incredibly infectious is the reason why, for at least right now, as we're going through this surge with Omicron, we would heavily recommend people to upgrade the mask. If all you have are cloth masks, then a cloth mask is better than no mask. And we might suggest you double mask with the cloth mask to give you more protection. If you can upgrade to a surgical mask, which is 3 plies and fits around your ears, that's better than a cloth mask. A KN95, which is produced outside of the country, which is identified as a true KN95 by the labeling saying GB-2929- and then the year it's made. The most recent one is 2019. So that's a way you can say it's a real KN95 mask, which is a much higher barrier protection mask, 5 layers instead of 3, and some coating on it, which reduces the risk of getting aerosols inhaled. But the N95 mask, which is usually approved by NIOSH, the National Institutes of Occupational Safety and Health, is the best one. And as opposed to ear loops, it has 2 straps that goes around the back, because it's not only the barrier protection of the mask, but it's also the fit around the face that makes the biggest difference. So we would highly recommend people to upgrade to the best quality mask you can get. And I know the Biden administration is going to try to circulate around 400 million N95 level masks. But whatever you have, please wear. And if you're with a cloth mask, just try to double mask with 2 cloth masks if you have them, to provide extra care and try to get it to fit tightly across your face.
All right, thank you, Kenny. Next to Charles Young with West Virginia News.
Hi, this is Charles Young with WV News. I had a couple of questions about our hospital staffing situation. First of all, I was wondering if there's been any more serious consideration or discussion of additional Save Our Cares payments. And then, General Hoyer, you said that by the end of the day, we'd have 200 guardsmen assigned. I was wondering if you could give us an idea for the total ceiling. Is that something we plan on exponentially increasing? Do we know how many people we're going to be, throwing at that effort? Thank you.
Charles, I think, we can get the general to weigh in the beginning, but I want to make sure that we understand this. The Saving Our Care has now been backed up with the big nursing program incentives that we've got, going on, and so maybe, General, if you could come in and, we're trying to do all the different things to make sure that we backstop the staffing, But anyway, General, come in, please.
Yes, sir, Governor. So, Charles, if you remember, we did as we call it, a tabletop exercise early on, which on behalf of the Governor, Clay, and the Secretary, and Dr. Amjad and I participated in with the task force. At that point, we had projected with the hospitals the potential need for about 350 guardsmen. There is an additional effort going on with training with guard personnel right now. Those 200 will be now related to requests that have officially been made, and we have assigned bodies who will flow into those positions. They range everything from people who might provide screening support at the entry point to the hospitals, to helping with logistics support, moving patients, a variety of other things designed to give the opportunity for healthcare professionals to spend more time focused on patient care. I think, Secretary Crouch had sent me a note this morning that we have over 1,000 hospital workers out today due to COVID restrictions right now. So right now we believe the 350 will work, but as always, and as Governor pointed out, the Guard's flexible, adaptable, and agile, and we'll work with that and other partners. And there are other things, as the Governor pointed out, that we are doing as part of his leadership team to relieve pressure off of our hospitals. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Governor, I'll turn it back to you.
Well, let me just kind of wrap up and as to what our experts have already told us today. I really hope that anyone and everyone that's out there listening, will pass this word on to others. But our coronavirus czar, Dr. Clay Marsh, first of all, I thank him for all the work and the assistance he did with me and lots of folks that he works with every day. But I want you to just listen to these words just a second. He said that the studies are out now that if you're 55 and older, you have a 44 times, can you imagine? If you had just a little bit more of a better chance of not being hospitalized, but what he's saying is if you're 55 and older and you've been vaccinated, you have a 44 times better chance of not being hospitalized if you get this. In addition to that, he said, if you're 65 and older, you have a 49 times better chance of not ending up in the hospital. I don't have any clue what in the world we could be waiting on. He also said that kids that are vaccinated have a 50 to 75% chance of not getting not getting COVID or Omicron or whatever in any way. So from the standpoint of our kids, and I'm talking to our parents now, from the standpoint of our kids that are vaccinated have an incredibly greater or less chance, rather, of getting COVID. Well, that's really important. That's really important. And from the standpoint of those 55 or 65 and older, you have a multiple times, from 44 to 49 times, good gracious, less chance of ending up in the hospital if you get this. You got to get boosted. You got to get your vaccinations. It's all I got. I wish to the Lord above that I could tell you, just don't worry about this. We got this little pill. You take this little pill one time and it's over. I wish to the God above I could tell you that. I prayed like crazy that we would get a vaccine. You know, there was a time when this stuff was running rampant and we didn't know what it was all about, and we were all scared to death, and stuff was getting closed down everywhere, and we were some way, somehow trying to piece together the government and keep everything running. We didn't know what to do. But I kept telling everybody, all we're trying to do is buy enough time to bridge us to get a vaccine. And now, by God above, and the work of a lot of really, really good people, we got it. We got the vaccine. And now we're still trying to urge people to take the vaccine. You know, I am totally rock solid. You never have to worry about me being rock solid on the fact that I am so respectful of our freedoms. I am so respectful of your opinion. And absolutely, I'm going to stand rock solid there. But I'm telling you from Jim Justice's standpoint, you need to be getting that vaccine. And whatever you do, you need to get that booster. And you need to get it for our kids too. So with all that being said, the only last thing I'd add is just this one thing. The great general that's on all the time, you know, and the great work that they've done at the National Guard, and you know, when he was at the helm and everything, and now they continue to do it under our Major General Crane and all the great stuff that he's doing, they are truly unbelievable. You know, William Farkas, on the way to West Point, from the Mountaineer Challenge Academy, the at-risk kids and everything, that the great work of the National Guard's done. It's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. But he said one other thing today. He said, do you remember back when they predicted, there was a group out of Washington State that predicted that there'd be 64 deaths in West Virginia. And at the time, I can't recall how many we had, but maybe it was 18 or 20 or whatever. And I thought, God forbid, it can't be 64. There's no way it can be 64. In a horrible mine disaster, you know, we lost 12 people or 11 people at Sago, and you know, and on and on. You know, it can't be 64. Well, today it's been 5,609. And General Hoyer just said to you just this. He said, the way this thing is going, we'll end up with 100 times 64. Think about that just a second. That's 6,400 people, 6,400 people, not 64. I couldn't believe, or I didn't want to tolerate it being 64. But 6,400, and you know what? We'll be really blessed. We'll be really blessed in West Virginia if we don't exceed that number too. Do you realize that every other day when we have a briefing, we're reading somewhere close to 40 names. So every other day, 20 briefings from now, if we continue at this pace, we'll read another 800 names. And 800 added to 5,600 is 6,409 people. In 20 more briefings, we'll be at 100 times the number that General Hoyer told us. I'm telling you, we have got to do everything in our power to stop this. It's not good. It's really not good. But for West Virginia to lose the potential of 6,400 West Virginians, it's unthinkable. Please help us. Please, please help us. And get vaccinated and get boosted. Thank you so much. That's all I've got. God bless each and every one of you.
House will please come to order. Those persons not having privilege of the floor will please vacate the chamber. Members and guests in the galleries will please rise as we are led in prayer this morning by the gentleman from the 55th, Douglas Ward.
Bow your heads and let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you with praise for loving us when we are imperfect. We give thanks for the fellowship found in this house and for the understanding that regardless of which side of the aisle we sit, our standards will always fall short of yours. With this understanding, we pray your Holy Spirit will spill into every heart in this chamber and bring clarity of thought as we consider the best path forward for the people of West Virginia. We ask blessings over the families and loved ones of every delegate and pray that you comfort them during our absence. We ask for blessings this afternoon for the delegates and staff as we travel home to reunite with those families. Should anyone in this chamber have a heavy heart today, we ask a special blessing of comfort over them. We give thanks for the privilege to represent our friends and neighbors. We give thanks for the gift of living in a free country, and we ask for your continued guidance so that it remains free. More than anything, Lord, we thank you for the gift of salvation and for the reminder that it's only found through our Savior, Jesus Christ. It's in his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Members and guests will remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance as we are led by the gentleman from the 62nd, Douglas Hurst.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would everybody please join me in the pledge to the greatest nation in the world? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Members and guests may be seated. Reading the Journal.
Journal of the House of Delegates, Thursday, January 20th, 2022.
Gentleman to 63rd, Douglas Hardy.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of the journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read.
The gentleman to 63rd asks unanimous consent that the further reading of the journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read. Are there objections? There are no objections. Introductions. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our doctor of the day is in the back, Tom Burden. If he would stand and we would make him welcome.
The gentleman to 28th, Douglas Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Coming down from Monroe County today, Mr. Speaker, we have 2 pages. The first one, if she would stand when I call her name, is Caitlin Fullen. And she is accompanied by her mother up in the North Gallery, Sonia Fullen, if she would stand. And the other page is Kirsten Nelson. If she would stand, please, from Monroe County. Accompanying her is her mother, Misty, her dad, Jim, and her big brother, Braxton. Please make them welcome.
The gentleman to 35th, Douglas Capito.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to introduce a page from Kanawha County. Hunter Wilkes. Hunter, if you would stand up. Hunter's a student at Charleston Catholic here in Charleston and joins us today along with his mother, Lori, who's in the gallery. If everybody would please make Hunter and his mother feel welcome.
Gentleman to the 11th, Douglas Keaton.
Mr. Speaker, we're joined this morning in the West Gallery by Dr. Richard Duncan, the Superintendent of Roane County Schools. Thank you for coming down, and we'll please make him feel welcome. Thank you.
The gentleman to 35th, Douglas Scaff.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce our page as well today with us. Xavier Pizza from Horseman Middle School, if he would stand, and Mother Jill is up there in the gallery. Let's please make them welcome. Give them a round of applause.
The gentleman to 37th, Douglas Pushkin, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd also like to introduce some pages from right here in Kanawha County. Joining us today, we have Nadia Goff and Waylon Goff. If they would please stand, they are joined today by their mother, Audrey, who's also in the West Gallery. If the House could make them feel welcome.
Are there further introductions? If not, reports to standing committees.
Your Committee on Energy and Manufacturing has had under consideration House Bill 4002, creating the Certified Sites and Development Readiness Program, and reports the same back with amendment with the recommendation that it do pass as amended, but that it first be referred to the Committee on Finance.
The report will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Your Committee on Energy and Manufacturing has had under consideration House Bill 2882, relating to repealing a ban on construction of nuclear power plants, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass, but that it first be referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
The report will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
Your Committee on Energy and Manufacturing has had under consideration House Resolution 5 regarding power grid stability, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it be adopted, but that it first be referred to the Committee on Rules.
The report will be received and the resolution will be referred to the Committee on Rules.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4276, permit WVU to create a Parkinson's disease registry, and reports back a committee substitute, therefore, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4252 to reduce copay cap on insulin and devices, and reports back a committee substitute, therefore, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4288, relating to expanding the practice of auricular acudetox to professions approved by the Acupuncturist Board, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass, but that it first be referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
The report will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
Your Committee on Fire Departments and Emergency Medical Services has had under consideration House Bill 2111, including emergency response vehicles in the single fee program for Easy Pass transponders, and reports the same back with amendment with the recommendation that it do pass as amended, but that it first be referred to the Committee on Finance.
The report will be received. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Your Committee on Senior, Children, and Family Issues has had under consideration House Bill 2798, relating to requiring the Health Department to mandate mucopolysaccharidosis type 1, MPS 1 test for newborn babies to be known as MB's Law, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass, but that it first be referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources.
This report will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources.
Your Committee on Senior, Children, and Family Issues has had under consideration House Bill 2524, modifying the definition of child abuse or neglect to exclude accidental injury, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass, but that it first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
The report will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary. Are there further reports of standing committees, reports of select committees, executive messages, Senate messages?
The Clerk of the Senate announces that the Senate has passed Senate Bill 244, relating to appointment of judges to Intermediate Court of Appeals.
Message be received. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
The Clerk of the Senate announces that the Senate has adopted the following resolutions. Senate Concurrent Resolution 1, U.S. Army Private First Class Billy Keith Ford Memorial Bridge.
Message be received. Resolution be referred to the Committee on Technology and Infrastructure, then the Committee on Rules.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 3, U.S. Marine Corps Captain Dempsey Stowers Memorial Bridge.
Message be received. Resolution be referred to the Committee on Technology and Infrastructure, then the Committee on Rules.
Committee substitute for Senate Concurrent Resolution 5, U.S. Marine Corps Corporal James Bud Cox Memorial Bridge.
Message be received. The resolution will be referred to the Committee on Technology and Infrastructure, then the Committee on Rules.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 6, Holden 22 Coal Miners Memorial Bridge.
Message be received. Resolution will be referred to the Committee on Technology and Infrastructure, then the Committee on Rules. Are there further Senate messages? If not, resolutions.
House Concurrent Resolution 23, requesting the Division of Highways to place at least 10 additional signs along highways entering West Virginia, honoring fallen veterans and Gold Star families.
Late in the 49th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with, and that each resolution be considered as formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the delegate console system.
The lady from the 49th asks unanimous consent that the further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with, and that each resolution be considered as having been formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the delegate console system. Are there objections? There are no objections. Petitions, motions, bills introduced.
House Bill 4311, creating criminal penalties for illegal voting activity.
Lady from the 49th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with, and that each bill be considered as formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the delegate console system.
The lady from the 49th asks unanimous consent that the further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with, and that each bill be considered as having been formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the delegate console system. Are there objections? There are no objections. Unfinished business. Bills on third reading.
Senate Bill 8, relating generally to states' savings and investment programs.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? If not, the chair recognizes the gentleman from the 29th, Douglas Steele, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of this bill is to streamline the Board of Governance and structure for the state's Smart 529 and Jumpstart Education Savings Program. The bill will combine the board to manage the 529 program and the Jumpstart program to save on administrative fees while maintaining each program's account separately. The board will expand from 9 members to 11 members to include perspectives from trade schools to support the new Jumpstart Savings Program. I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On that question, there were 95 ayes, 0 nays, and 5 members absent. A majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Senate Bill 8, relating generally to states' savings and investment programs.
Are there amendments to the title?
Delegate Steele moves to amend the title.
The question before the House is the adoption of the title amendment. Those in favor of adoption of the title amendment will please say aye. Those opposed will please say no. The ayes have it. The chair declares the title amendment adopted. The title as amended by the House will be and remain the title of the bill. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the bill take effect from passage.
The question before the House is the lady's motion that the bill be made effective from passage. Those in favor of the motion will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There were 95 ayes, 0 nays, and 5 members absent. 2/3 of members having voted in the affirmative. The chair declares the bill effective from passage. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4067 to make certain agency reports electronic or eliminating certain agency reports altogether.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? No objections are heard. Gentleman from the 29th to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of this bill is to make certain agency reports electronic rather than in hard copy form, to remove outdated sections of code where the reporting date has already passed, and to eliminate reporting requirements which are no longer needed. This bill affects 16 reporting requirements. 6 are being changed to electronic reporting only. 8 sections are being repealed because the reporting deadline has already passed, and 2 reporting requirements are being repealed by request of the Legislative Auditor's Office because they are no longer needed. That's the bill, Mr. Speaker, and I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those, yes, gentleman 36, Douglas Rose, recognized.
Would the gentleman answer a couple of questions?
Yes.
I was just looking at the way it's presented. As I understand it, if someone requests a hard copy, they can have that, perhaps just print off of a scan.
Yes.
And I noted that at the beginning of the bill, it says if requested by a member. And I didn't know the distinction between whether it was just a public at large or a member of this body.
It would be a member of the legislature. If you look at where we're at in there, a lot of these reports are agency reports that over the years, you probably know that we require these reports to be delivered to the legislature.
Right.
we'll walk into the office on the first day and have carts of paper when it actually had just been easier to have a PDF, but we can still request those hard copies to your question.
And the public can also get hard copies, pretty much of anything.
I believe we could provide it to them in electronic format, but I mean, as well, if some member of the public walked in, I'd print it off for them. Wouldn't have a problem with it.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Is there further debate on the bill? If not, the question again before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There were 95 ayes, 0 nays, and 5 members absent. A majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4067 to make certain agency reports electronic or eliminating certain agency reports altogether.
Are there amendments to the title?
Delegate Steele moves to amend the title.
The question before the House is the adoption of the title amendment. Those in favor of the title amendment will please say aye. Those opposed will please say no. The ayes have it. The chair declares the title amendment adopted. The title as amended by the House will be and remain the title of the bill. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the bill take effect from passage.
The question before the House is the motion that the bill be made effective from passage. Those in favor of the motion will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There were 95 ayes, 0 nays, and 5 members absent. 2/3 of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares the bill effective from passage. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Are there further bills on third reading? If not, bills on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2184, increasing the penalties for exposure of governmental representatives to fentanyl and or any other harmful drug.
Are there amendments?
Delegate Pushkin moves to amend the bill. This is HFA Pushkin 1-21, number 1.
Clerk will please read the amendment.
Delegate Pushkin moves to amend the bill on page 3, section 10B, lines 62 and 68 by striking out the words or any other harmful drug or chemical agent.
Is that the second one?
All right, for the benefit of all members, we do appear to have we want to get clear what's before the body. So the chair is going to ask the clerk to read the amendment that's before the body. Then chair will recognize the gentleman from the 37th to speak to the amendment. So at this time, the clerk will please read the amendment that is before the body.
Delegate Pushkin moves to amend House Bill 2184 on page 3, section 10B, line 66, by striking out the period and inserting a colon and the following, provided that the provisions of this subsection do not apply to those persons immune from prosecution pursuant to 16-47-4 of the Code.
Okay, now, the Question before the House is, shall the amendment be adopted? Chair recognizes the sponsor, gentleman from 37th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What this amendment does and what it refers to, that section of code, is what is now referred to as the Alcohol and Drug Overdose Prevention and Clemency Act, which some of us were here, we passed back in 2015, which was commonly referred to as the Good Samaritan Law. And what that law does is it grants immunity for under certain guidelines and for certain nonviolent offenses if somebody calls 911 when there's an overdose. This would specifically state that the misdemeanor section of this bill's divided. There's a misdemeanor in this. There's a felony. The misdemeanor section for exposing a government official to fentanyl would be specifically covered under the Good Samaritan Law, which is the Alcohol and Drug Overdose Prevention and Clemency Act. So they would, if they followed certain guidelines, which is laid out in the law already, they could get immunity if they do the right thing and call 911 and hopefully prevent an overdose death. I would urge adoption of the amendment. I reserve the right to close.
Question before the House is, shall the amendment be adopted? Gentleman from 35th, Doug Capito.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of the gentleman's amendment. It does not apply to the felony portion of this code. There would be, in this case, no injury to any law enforcement officer or first responder as a result of this amendment, and therefore I rise in support and urge you to do the same.
Is there further debate on the amendment? Does the gentleman wish to close debate? If not, the question before the House is, shall the amendment be adopted? Those in favor of adoption will please say aye. Those opposed will please say no. Ayes have it. Chair declares that amendment adopted. Are there further amendments?
Delegate Pushkin moves to amend the bill on page 3, section 10B, lines 62 and 68, by striking out the words, or any other harmful drug or chemical agent.
Question before the House is, shall the amendment be adopted? Gentleman from 37th, Delegate Pushkin, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What this amendment does, it simply it removes some of the ambiguous language from the bill. And the bill, I think the original intent was to create this charge if one exposes a government official to fentanyl. This was added, I believe, last year in committee, or any other harmful drug. I don't think that's really well defined. It's not defined anywhere in the code. Not sure if it's constitutional to put that in criminal law, something that is not defined at all and really could be left to interpretation. There are just about anything could be, any drug would be considered a harmful drug. Under this, if somebody, say, if they unlawfully obtained nicotine, if they're underage, and somebody got second side stream smoke, that could apply to this. Now, would it? No, but it could. I think we should clear up this part of the bill, make it only apply to fentanyl and not any other harmful drug or chemical agent. I would urge adoption of the amendment, reserve the right to close.
Question before the House is, shall the amendment be adopted? Gentleman from 35th, Doug Capito, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to the gentleman's second amendment, second amendment to the bill, not his Second Amendment rights. And the reason I do is because I think we're leaving out two important terms here. This is not a strict liability crime. It requires the unlawful and intentional possession of a harmful drug or chemical agent. I don't think we should be immunizing the unlawful and intentional possession of a harmful drug or chemical agent that results in injury to a first responder or a police officer, and therefore I urge rejection of the gentleman's amendment. Thank you.
Is there debate on the amendment? Gentleman 37th did reserve the right to close debate on the amendment. Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I am relieved to know that the chairman of the judiciary is not coming for my guns. I would urge, just think about this. What we're putting into a part of the criminal code is something that is not defined. It leaves way too much to interpretation, and at the discretion of of any prosecutor or court. This could be tacked on for just about anything. It's any other harmful drug. That pretty much covers everything. So I would strongly urge adoption of the amendment so you could fix the bill, make it actually apply to what you mean it to apply to. Follow the original intent of the bill. Thank you.
The question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. Those in favor of adoption of the amendment will please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. No. Noes appear to have it. The noes have it. Chair declares that amendment lost. Are there further amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced to third reading. Next bill on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2972, allowing a person to manufacture a stated amount of alcoholic liquor for personal consumption.
Are there amendments?
Delegate Fast moves to amend the bill. This is HFA Fast 121, number 1.
Clerk will please read the amendment.
Delegate Fast moves to amend the bill on page 1, section 2A, line 2, after the word use, by inserting a comma and the words, provided that no person under the age of 21 years of age may consume or use alcoholic liquor.
The question before the House is, shall the amendment be adopted? Is there debate on the amendment? Gentleman 32nd, Delegate Fast is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In full disclosure, I did run these amendments in Judiciary, and they failed. A couple of the amendments were grouped together. Now I have them itemized separately. This amendment simply clarifies what I believe is some ambiguous language, that you cannot have underage alcohol drinking. Yes, it is already part of the code, but the way it reads right now without this amendment, that a person at least 21 years of age may manufacture alcoholic liquors. In other words, you have to be 21 to make it. But then it says for personal or family use. We had a guest in Judiciary, Mr. Bassimi, with the ABC, and he, in his interpretation, this could in fact be read to allow family or household use, and oftentimes you have members of your family or household who are under the age of 21, and we're talking about liquor here. We're not talking even beer is illegal, but we're talking liquor, which is a very high alcohol content. And so that is the provisions of this amendment, to simply clarify that under no circumstances may one under the age of 21 years be allowed to consume liquor. And so I would urge passage and ask for your consideration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The question before the House is, shall the amendment be adopted? The gentleman 35th, Delegate Capito.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to the gentleman's amendment. This was, as he noted, thoroughly discussed in committee and defeated in committee, and it was probably defeated because we already know that you can't do that anyway. And furthermore, I think this is a sort of anti-Big Brother law, and I don't see any reason why we should be telling parents or households how to run their households any more than we already do. So I urge rejection.
The question again is, shall the amendment be adopted? Is there debate on the amendment? If not, those in favor of adoption of the amendment will please say aye. Aye. Those opposed will please say no. No. Noes appear to have it. Okay, noes have it. Chair declares that amendment lost. Are there further amendments?
Delegate Fast moves to amend the bill on page 1, section 2A, line 2, after the word exceed, by striking out the number 100 and inserting in lieu thereof the number 30. And on page 1, section 2A, line 3, after the words years or, by striking out the number 50 and inserting in lieu thereof the number 15.
The question now before the House is, shall that amendment just read by the clerk be adopted? Is there debate on the amendment? Gentleman from the 32nd, Delegate Fast, is recognized.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. This amendment was also offered in Judiciary, but in conjunction with the former amendment, and it also failed as it was grouped with another, the prior amendment. The way the bill reads now allows 100 gallons of liquor to be produced for household or family purposes. That's if you have 2 or more people, and I guess it can be someone over the age of 21 or under the age of 21, however you want to look at it now. But you've seen the 55-gallon drums. I thought about bringing one in here, but I didn't. Pretty big barrels. That's 55 gallons. That's just half right there. This would allow for 2 of those, just about that far from the top, to be produced in a year's time for 2 or more people, and half of that for just one person. A whole barrel of liquor. And again, we're not talking about just beer, or very high alcohol content. At the 100 gallons, that equates to 12,800 ounces per year, or 35 plus ounces per day, 365 days a year. And of course, that would all be halved at the 50-gallon mark. And so that is the purpose of this amendment, is just to be reasonable. And if you think about it, we still have restrictions in this bill. No more than 100 gallons or no more than 50 gallons. We have restrictions. That is the state imposing restrictions upon families, people in their own households, okay? So if we're going to regulate it, then I believe a more reasonable amount would be 30 gallons per year for 2 individuals, or 15 gallons for 1 individual, if we're going to regulate it at all. Otherwise, I say let's just take all the limitations out, take all the restrictions out, and just say have at it. So I would urge passage, and I ask for the yeas and nays on this, Mr. Speaker.
Question again before the House is, shall the amendment be adopted? The gentleman 35th Leader Capito is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to the gentleman's amendment. Again, another amendment that we did discuss in committee. The gentleman is correct. We did take it in tandem with another amendment. However, I don't believe that was the purpose of its defeat, nor did we hear from ABCA on sort of if they had any concerns. One of them that was not addressed was were the limitations here. I don't doubt my friend's concerns, but I do doubt his ability to monitor consumption based on his knowledge of alcohol, but I do understand his efforts. We do know that there are probably some here that would like for this to be unlimited. We've taken careful consideration, and the drafter and the sponsors have taken consideration to understand and appreciate the need for limitation on this sort of substance, and therefore these limitations were put in place for that purpose. I think they're reasonable and legitimate, and I urge rejection of the gentleman's amendment.
The gentleman 46th, Second Burkhammer is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to rise in support of the amendment. And I think one of the key things that's missing in this when we talk about these limits is there is no enforcement mechanism. You know, we're talking about 100 gallons per year. We don't have to report it. We don't, there's no enforcement with it. So essentially, the way the bill is written, the only thing you're going to know is if they have 100 gallons in their home at that time. And I really think that's just a little excessive when we're talking about 100 gallons on hand at one time. And to be honest with you, I think 30 is a little steep. But I think we are going to at least drop that to a little more reasonable point when we're going to say 30 gallons at a time. That's still a lot. And so I'm going to ask that you support the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there further debate on the amendment? Okay, if not, the question before the House is, shall the amendment be adopted? Roll call vote on the amendment was demanded. Is the demand sustained? The demand is not sustained. The question is, shall the amendment be adopted? Those in favor will please say aye. Aye. Those opposed will please say no. No. Noes appear to have it. Noes have it. Chair declares that amendment lost. Are there further amendments?
Delegate Fast moves to amend the bill on page 1, section 2A, line 5, after the word sold by inserting a comma, on page 1, section 2A, line 5, after the word sold by deleting the word or, and on page 1, section 2A, line 5, after the word sale by inserting the following: or offered, transferred, or gifted to non-family or non-household members.
Question before the House is, shall the amendment just read by the clerk be adopted? The gentleman from the 32nd Douglas Fast is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am quite certain that this amendment will pass, but out of abundance of caution, I would ask unanimous consent to withdraw this amendment.
Are there objections? No objections are heard. That amendment will be withdrawn. Are there further amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced to third reading. Next bill on second reading.
House Bill 3303, relating to clarifying the process for filling vacancies on ballots.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced to third reading. Are there further bills on second reading? Okay, bills on first reading.
Senate Bill 191, allowing poll workers to work full and half days.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2177, permitting the issuance of a state-issued identification card without a photo on the card under certain conditions.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 2325, removing the requirement of continuing education for barbers and cosmetologists.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 3220, restrictions on taxpayer-funded lobbying.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 3231, public utilities not required to pay interest on security deposits.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 3312, establishing a memorial to child labor and child workers who died in the course of employment in this state.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4062, removing the residency requirement for the Commissioner of the Division of Highways.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4065, allowing the Division of Natural Resources to teach hunters safety courses in school.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4074, require schools provide eating disorder and self-harm training for teacher and students.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4112, provide consumers a choice for pharmacy services.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4113, public health definitions and powers of Secretary and Commissioner.
The bill will be advanced. Are there further bills on first reading? If not, leaves of absence. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For our colleagues, delegates Ellington, Rohrbach, Brown, Martin, and Young.
Are there objections to leaves of absence being granted? No objections are heard. Leaves shall be granted. Introductions. Introductions. Miscellaneous business. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move, subject to announcements, the House adjourn until 11 a.m. Monday, January 24th.
The question before the House is the motion that, subject to announcements, the House stand adjourns at 11 o'clock Monday morning. Are there announcements? Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you haven't seen in the media yet, the State of the State has been rescheduled for this coming Thursday, January 27th, 7 p.m. in the chamber. If you got tickets, you can still use those. If you need to get tickets, please see the executive assistant in the Speaker's office. Thank you.
Gentleman the 10th, I got Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Finance will continue to budget hearings on Monday, the 24th, with the Department of Environmental Protection at 9 a.m. in the House Finance Committee room. Thank you, sir.
Gentleman 32nd, I got Fast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Judiciary will meet Monday at 3 p.m. in the committee meeting room. The agenda will be posted.
Gentleman from the 51st, Douglas Statler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Education will meet Monday, January the 24th at 3 p.m. in Education Committee room. The agenda is posted.
Gentleman 15th, Douglas Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Government Organization will meet Monday at 3 p.m. in the Government Organization Committee room, not on the House floor, but in the Government Organization Committee room. The agenda will be posted.
Gentleman 31st, Douglas Tony.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Veterans Affairs and Homeland Security will meet on Monday, January 24th at 2 p.m.
in the House Judiciary Committee Room, and the agenda will be posted.
Gentleman 16th, Doug Linville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Republicans on the Committee on Technology and Infrastructure will caucus in 216 in the East Wing, the Chairman's office, immediately following adjournment today. And we will hold a meeting of the Committee on Technology and Infrastructure Monday at 1 p.m. right here in the House chamber, and the agenda is posted. Thank you.
Gentleman 35th, Doug Capito.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who were here for the first time last year in our very odd COVID year, we were limiting certain meetings, and that was no different for our Tech Caucus that we had stood up the year before. So for those of you who were here before, we had established a Tech Caucus to look at ideas how to grow economic development and next generation jobs as they relate to advances in technology. So this year we're going to have our first meeting and start up again next Wednesday, which is the 26th. We're going to have a lunch at noon. We are planning to have that in the House Judiciary Committee Room. And we will have a presentation by Data Robot, which is already active in West Virginia with its AI analytics that are going on now. And if you are like me and don't really understand AI, I'd encourage you to attend and learn more about it as it's up and going in the state of West Virginia. Thank you.
Are there further announcements? Gentleman 36, Doug Barrick.
All right, before I send you out on the roads, I just want to update you on what's happening. A lot of you have long trips to take. No major storms coming in for the weekend, so that's the good news, but I do want to alert you that we have some melting snow on the highways, and with the temperatures very cold, we are going to be looking at some areas of ice. So especially if you're driving through the higher elevations, please be very careful on the roads. When you're coming back in here on Sunday, we will have a light storm system coming through, light snow, just a nuisance snow. Should start about noon up to the north, make it down by Charleston by about 5, looking for an inch or less. So not a big storm system, but again, kind of just a nuisance when you're out there. So please drive carefully, be aware of the road conditions out there. We want to see you all back here Monday. I hope you have a great weekend. And this road report brought to you by Tutors. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman 55th, Doug Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to stand and acknowledge thanks to the gentleman for his weather reports for those of us like myself who travel in excess of 200 miles to safely get home. It's indeed appreciated. Thank you.
Question before the House is the motion that the House stand adjourns at 11 a.m. Monday morning. Those in favor of the motion will please say aye. Those opposed will please say no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The House is adjourned at 11 a.m. Monday.